Okay guys, this recipe fits perfectly into my theme for the month of April, which is feeling fancy. I don't know if anything represents my home state more than these mini Louisiana Cajun crab cakes with a remoulade. At least in the appetizer department. We're not talking about gumbo right now. So I've started by taking a mixing bowl and I'm going to be adding some mayonnaise. And I've already put one egg in there, and you can mix it when you crack it, or you can mix it in a minute. You'll see that I wait and do it later when everything's in there. Actually, I just go ahead and do it right then with the mayonnaise. So after we get that mixed up really well, we're going to go in with some Dijon mustard, about 2 tablespoons. Of course, everything is on the blog for you, all the measurements, all the macros, all that jazz. Then after that, I'm going to take some hot sauce now. My favorite hot sauce, of course, is Louisiana. It just cannot be beat. And I'm going to finish this little mixture off with some Tony Sasseries. If you know, you know. And if you're from Louisiana, then you know. Tony's is like the seasoning of our state. It's delicious. I also like to add a little bit of pepper. I'm going to give all that a good mix. And while I do that, I just want to talk a little bit more about Louisiana, this recipe. I just want to have a little chat. We Louisianians, try to say that fast 10 times, we're situated on the Gulf, so we have some delicious seafood. We're also known for our ability to season foods to perfection. If you don't believe me, just ask around. And we are experts at getting the best crispy crust on a multitude of fried favorites. Not just these crab cakes. Anything you can imagine, we can probably fry it and it will be amazing. Now I'm going to take a separate mixing bowl and I'm going to put in some panko breadcrumbs. I like to use panko breadcrumbs. This is a Japanese breadcrumb, by the way. I believe it's Japanese. I know it's Asian. Anyhow, I like to use these because they're a lot bigger and they give this nice crispiness. I'm going to add some dried parsley to that for some beautiful color. I like to see the specks of green in the crab mixture. And then I'm going to add my jumbo lump crab straight into the parsley and the panko breadcrumbs. And I know that might be different because a lot of people dip their crab cakes into their breadcrumb mixture, but this is actually mixed in with the meat. Now, really quick, back to Louisiana and our food. Not only do we know how to cook, but you combine that with our spicy sauces that are packed with flavor, and you have a state that could probably school the entire world on how to cook. I'm so excited to show you how to make these Louisiana crab cakes, the mini version, and I want to give you some ideas on how to make it a crowd-pleasing appetizer or a hearty main dish for Sunday supper. So once I got all of my jumbo lump crab in there, I'm just mixing up really well to make sure that all of the parsley, all of the breadcrumbs are in there. And then we're going to pour that crab mixture straight into the wet ingredients that we did earlier, the mayonnaise, the Dijon, the seasonings. And we're going to give that a really good mix. This is what is going to form our mini crab cakes. So once all of the crab and the breadcrumbs are coated and they're wet, then we're going to use our hands and we're going to form our crab cakes. So let's talk about these crab cakes being mini size, okay? Why did I want to do that? Well, at restaurants, they're typically served as 1 or 2 large crab cakes, at least for an appetizer, but I like the option of smaller ones. I think that works better as an appetizer that way, because personally, this is just me, our portion sizes are crazy big anyway, especially when you're talking about appetizers. It's supposed to be something that whets your appetite. It should not be the size of your meal. So it's interesting, or it's nice to do something different. Also, it's like a mental thing. So I'm going to give you a little sneak peek into the way that I think about food. If there is one large crab cake for the appetizer and I paid a pretty penny for it, I am pressured to finish it all. And if I'm ordering it as an appetizer and it's large, 1 or 2, that is just way too much food. When they are made smaller, to me, they are more shareable, which is what an appetizer should be. Something that you are essentially just tasting to hold you over until your meal gets there. So you can also pack up the extras and take them home without having bitten off of the crab cakes. So if the appetizer only had one large crab cake or two and you didn't want to finish it, but you'd already bitten off of it, then no one else would want to finish it either. So yeah, that's how my brain works. So this recipe is going to make about 10 mini crab cakes, and you can see here as I'm rolling them out in my hand and kind of flattening them, they are mini, but I'm telling you guys, that is what an appetizer should be, in my opinion. Now, if you want to give them main character energy, which I do not blame you, they are good enough to be your main character on the table, then all you would have to do is make 5 medium-sized crab cakes instead of 10 minis. And you could pair it with a salad, you could pair it with a side dish. You can definitely build a meal around them. And I would totally encourage you to do just that. So I have them all rolled out. I like to do that on my cutting board. I don't know what it is about me and my cutting board, but I use my plastic ones and my wood one for like everything. All right, so I have my skillet here. Cast iron skillet would be really great, but mine was occupied with something else. So I'm just using one of my nonstick skillets. And I put in a little bit of vegetable oil and I turned my heat to medium-high heat. And I'm putting in there 5 at a time. And I'm just going to let them cook and brown and get nice and crispy. It's about 3 to 5 minutes on the first side. And then once you turn them over, you're going to go another 3 to 5 minutes on the second side, and then they will be ready to take out of the grease. Now I wanted to give you a couple of pointers here, and I don't know if you can see it in the video, but when you're turning them over, you can put your finger on the side of the crab cake that has not been in the pan because it is not hot. And that will really help you flip it over without breaking it apart or making a mess. Okay, now I'm taking them out of the skillet, and I typically, I'm telling you guys, like 100% of the time, except for today, of course, I take out all of my fried foods on a wooden cutting board, but my wooden cutting board was being used again for something else. So I just got a large platter and put my paper towels on there. You can see how the excess grease just goes off of the crab cakes and into the paper towels, which is what you want. But what I want to tell you is a nice little tip. Instead of using a plate or a platter that you're going to have to wash when you're done, use your wooden cutting board and put your paper towels down on top of that. And again, the excess grease will be absorbed by the paper towels, but underneath the paper towels, the cutting board will absorb the extra oil too, and you don't have to wash it. And wooden cutting boards need to be conditioned every now and then, and it really just keeps your wooden cutting board in a good condition. Like that wood needs a little bit of that oil. So yeah, it works perfectly. I don't have dishes, and I'm keeping my wooden cutting board nice and hydrated, I guess would be the right way to say that. Anyway, I did these in 2 batches. I didn't want to overcrowd the pan, so I did 5 in the first round and I did 5 in the second. And once they're beautiful and golden brown, then I'm removing them from the grease and onto my paper towel. And once I've got all of those out of the pan, it is time to make our remoulade. And in case you're wondering what a remoulade is, it's a cold sauce. I think a lot of people would compare it to tartar sauce, but it has more of a zip to it. It's definitely a Louisiana thing. It's creamy as well. I'm gonna start with some mayo, and I'm gonna add some Dijon mustard to that, some onion powder, some garlic powder, some pepper, some Tony Sasseries, and I'm also gonna add some smoked paprika and some hot sauce. So it has a lot of the same ingredients that went into the crab cake itself. And this is just going to be a nice little dipping sauce for a nice kick of flavor. And there are also supposed to be capers in here, and I have them, you guys, and I totally forgot to put them in there. So I won't include it in the recipe. It's great without it, but it's even better with it. So I will get you another recipe for remoulade that includes capers and maybe even horseradish in the future, because I really like the kick of the horseradish. For a nice kick of acid, we are going to do the juice of a lemon and get that in there. It just really brightens up the remoulade. Fresh lemon juice seems to do wonderful things for everything. I just like to make sure that I squeeze the juice into my hand, and that way my fingers, the cracks in between my fingers actually allow the lemon juice to go through, but I'm able to catch the seeds kind of like a strainer. Yeah, our tools, the best tools are our hands and fingers. We can do so much, you guys. So then I'm going to mix that up really well, and I want to give it a taste. You want to always taste for seasoning to see if I needed to add any salt, any pepper, and I think that yep, that is perfect. That's good. Now, I couldn't show you how to make these wonderful crab cakes without tasting them for you. And look, they're perfect for little hands when they're the mini version. You just dip them right in the Remoulade. Ugh, so good. You have to make them, guys. You have to.